I'm Wendy. I'm Sandy.
I'm 지한정.
I'm 지통류.
I'm Kaichen.
Our topic is keep dancing and use silence.
Hi, I'm Sandy. I will talk about the reason why we choose this topic and the goal. Most people know that art is highly correlated with dance, both for fine art as well as music. In Van Gogh's work, The Starry Night, he stirred up ripples via his unique stroke as well, and on top of that, it contains turbulence or fluid mechanics. In the classical piece created by Barroom, we find that the subtlety of counterpoint is deeply contribute to the harmony, even a reification in artistic expression. Today, we will talk about ballet and sing about the science hidden in the beauty of body movement. Furthermore, we will discuss how to use this fundamental knowledge to make our actions more complete and skillful. It lets the beauty of art present not only on the surface but also among the beauty of science.
Create. Keep our center of gravity downward. Keep our balance downward. First, we should warm out our neck, hip, and hip joints. Second, we need to turn the hip joints outward and don't start in a squatting position. Besides, we can keep our back in lunge and boost. That action is the preparation of jumping. When doing this action, we should make our step keep our verticality. To make this action accurate, we need to incline our body forward and backward and make our center of gravity shift. Standing pre-act. If we want to accomplish standing pre-act, we need to keep the degree of hip flexion, hook flexion, chest extension, and high front regular. Moreover, we need to keep the angle between our feet and the spine. The stability between pelvis and hip joint is the most important factor. The ideal situation is present relatively pelvis and hip joint. If appearing too much interpreviously and posterior previously, it will generate excess pressure to our lower leg joint and soft tissue. In long term, it may have our strength. Great pre-act. When we do great pre-act, our neck muscle bends high to a position close to the hero line and keep our body declined above. The purpose of the action is to incline and enhance the flexibility and tension of our ankle, knee, and hip during travel. The title of the film, which is doing the action, follow the sporting legs to reach the firm side of back of the knee of the sporting leg. Moreover, it should be noted that we cannot allow the heel of movable foot to touch the sporting leg. When we conduct this action, we should make our provide consolidated push the heel of the movable leg forward and turn the high outward at the hip joint.
Hi, I'm Wendy. Let's introduce the circle and the axis. In physics, our definition of a circle is, in the same plane, a collection of points whose distance to a fixed point is equidistant, and the fixed point is what we call the center of the circle. In ballet, we can divide into two forms through the ratio of the circle. Both demi-runner jump and grand runner jump are their supporting foot is the axis, but the former is the movable foot is drawn a quarter of a circle. The latter is drawn a half of a circle, and we can divide into two directions. Under is outward and underneath is inward.
Hi, I'm Kai Chen, and now I will tell you the relationship between theater and ballet. At the beginning, I will explain what is theater and introduce some movement of ballet. What is theater? Theater is the value with direction. For example, if A is starting point and B is ending point, and we define the direction from A to B is positive, and the direction from B to A is negative, and the distance between A and B is C, then we call the theta AB is plus C and theta BA is minus C. And now I will tell you two movements of ballet, tendu and jetate. Tendu, a basic movement of ballet. In this movement, our upper body should be straightened, and the movable foot should keep it straight. The movable foot don't leave the floor and need to stay outward to a point that the tiptoes are straight in a circle, and the distance that the toes rub out is the furthest point that can be reached. Jetate is a similar movement to tendu. The only difference between jetate and tendu is when we do the jetate, we need to lift the movable foot to a position of 45 degrees from the supporting foot cleft. By the video, if we assume the supporting foot is point A, and the final point after the toe side outward is point B, we can see that a set of tendu just two sets. One is from A to B, and another is from B to A. And here we let the distance between A and B be the value of the theta, and we define the direction from A to B is positive, and the direction from B to A is negative. Then we can get two thetas, theta AB and theta BA, to represent a theta of tiptoe movement. Here, theta AB is plus A and theta BA is minus A. When we finish one set of tendu, we get theta AB plus theta BA is equal to 0. By this result, we conclude that the total theta of tiptoe movement must be 0 after finish one set of tendu. And that is similar to finishing one set of jetate.
Hello, I'm Zhihan Zhen, and I'm going to talk about angular momentum in ballet. Turning on one leg, which means wheat in French, are called frisée in ballet. The dancer started frisée by pulling off the floor with her feet to generate torque. Then when she turns, the friction between her shoes and the floor will reduce her momentum. So how does she keep turning? Among each turn, the dancer pauses and faces the audience for a moment. Then her supporting foot flattens. When the dancer stands on tiptoe, she will whirl again. And the reason why she will whirl again is that she pushes off the floor to generate new torque again. But the main reason is her another leg never stops moving. During her momentum pause, the dancer's leg straightens and move from the front to the side. After they are folded back into her knee. By staying in motion, the starting of momentum, which keeps dancer in motion, is transmitted between dancer's body and leg. If the net external torque on the system is 0, the total angular momentum is constant in magnitudes and direction. That's called conservation of angular momentum. Now, rotational inertia can be thought of as body's resistance to rotational motion and is proportional to the radius. So when dancer brings her arms closer to her body, her rotational inertia shrinks. By the conservation of angular momentum, her angular velocity has to increase. So it comes same amount of stored momentum to carry her through multiple turns.
That's all for our report. We hope that everyone can slightly understand the relationship between ballet and science through our science popularity introduction. Of course, we use a little scientific principle that cannot comprehensively elaborate the appearance of art because they are just separable with both sense and sensibility, but are communicating with both.
Thanks for listening and we should have a nice day.